Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to my Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 7 review, which this is getting very exciting because I'm getting close to catching up. I just gotta watch Episode 8, and then obviously I'll be all set to watch the season premiere, well, the mid-season premiere Sunday, which is very exciting. I'll probably have, both episodes up today. But obviously, starting off with episode 7. This episode came out on November 18th, 2018. The day of my sister's birthday, actually. And this episode is called, I don't know how to say the word, but it's going to be in the title. Stradivarius, I think is how you say it. But I could be wrong. I looked up the pronunciation, but then got busy doing other things and should have played it again and again. But I didn't, so... yeah, the episode's in the title, though. It's pretty much a violin. I kind of was wondering where the hell that name came from. Well, I didn't know it was a violin, so there's that. And this episode, ironically enough, was the first episode to be directed by Michael Cudlitz, which is obviously very significant because he used to play Abraham Ford in The Walking Dead, but obviously Abraham's character was killed off in season 7, so I thought it was pretty cool that he got to direct an episode. It's very exciting, and I thought overall with the way they did some of the things were pretty nice. So I'm just going to start off by talking about this episode. I'm going to break down the stuff that took place with Daryl and Carol and Henry first, just because of the fact that that was kind of separated from the other two storylines and stuff. So, I think that's kind of the best way to start it off. And I kind of liked how they gave a storyline reason that Daryl kind of has been living on his own and hasn't, associated with any of the communities. And you could see that Carol was worried about him because he hasn't eaten. We find out he has a dog named Dog, which not very creative name for a dog, but okay. And Dale hasn't eaten, but his dog typically eats. And Dale is pretty content though with living by himself. He even has a nice setup. He has a boat that's made out of like logs and stuff, was that's kind of cool because if you guys had watched Fear the Walking Dead, they did the same thing towards the end of season 4 of that show. So I kind of like that they kind of did a callback to that. And Dale's got traps set up so that way the walkers will step on him and not attack him, and keep away the animals. And he catches squirrels and things like that. And he makes them dinner. And Carol tells Dale privately that the reason that she came to Dale is that she wants Dale to be like an escort and watch over Henry when he goes to the hilltop to be a blacksmith. And Dale doesn't want to do that because he doesn't want to be a babysitter. And he says he's content with just living on his own, and says that the kid's going to have to figure out for himself what the world is really like and how to adjust to a zombie apocalyptic type of world. A zombie apocalypse. I don't know why, but the webcam just freezes out of nowhere like that. But
obviously, though, he didn't say zombie apocalyptic type of world because, the word zombie doesn't exist in this show. So, yeah. And later on, Henry finds out about this and he gets upset with Carol about that because Carol doesn't trust that he can take care of himself. So we got to find out a little bit of a storyline reason why Daryl has been living by himself. We found out that
he has been, you know, looking for Rick's body since episode 5, since that's when Rick was killed off. And when he didn't find it, he just kind of became content with living by himself. It made things not as hard. So I kind of like that they addressed that. And Carol agrees with that and says that she has to let that he has to kind of let Rick go, because you could kind of see that Rick's death kind of hurt Dale in a way, because Rick and Dale were like brothers throughout the show, and I think Rick's death had a big impact on Dale, and it's kind of made him separated from everybody again. So what happens is Dale cooks dinner for everybody, and later on in the night, Henry follows Dale because he loses Dog, and Dog is trapped and about to get attacked by a horde of walkers. So Dale goes to attack them, but then he tells Henry to stay back, and then he gets in trouble himself. He gets tripped up by a couple of walkers. Dale kills them, trying to save Dog, and eventually one of the walkers gets free and loses a foot. But when it's about to kill Dale, Henry steps in with a pitchfork and just kills it, and then they end up saving Dog, and we see that Carol was watching this in the woods, kind of like she could have done something, but kind of wanting to see Dale and Henry kind of work together. So I kind of liked that. Later on, you kind of see Henry and Dale kind of have a bonding moment where Henry talks about how Carol's worried about Dale because he's living out here by himself, and she consistently worries about him, talks about how she thinks of him as a best friend. Dale says that Henry and that she wants Dale to go back to Hilltop, not for Henry, but for himself. And this kind of makes Dale want to go back to the Hilltop, so that's what ends up happening. So this makes Carol happy. And it was a kind of like a nice story they did throughout the episode. I thought it was pretty good. So then we see back at the Hilltop, Jesus is taken over as leader. It's supposed to be like they say it's supposed to be a temporary thing, because we find out that Maggie left with Herschel to join George's group and kind of helped rebuild other communities. Now, obviously, we know in real life Laurie Cohan's going to be in Risky Cavaliers, so she isn't going to be involved with the show as much. We know in real life she asked for a pay increase. They didn't give it to her, so she went and did that show. Which, kind of sucks, because she was a big part of The Walking Dead. And it kind of sucks we didn't really get much of a send-off with her, because what happened pretty much is I think Rick was being sent off, and obviously wasn't going to be coming back. So I think they wanted to focus on getting Rick off since he was the big main character, where they just pretty much just said Maggie is gone. They really didn't do much of announcements about it. I expect Maggie to be back in a few episodes here and there, because now obviously it depends how much time she's going to have to be able to show up and film that type of stuff, because Maggie, Lauren Cohan's going to be doing two shows, and it's just way too much for her to do that. So, yeah. And obviously she probably wants to focus on Whiskey Cavaliers. So, Jesus, though, is temporarily taken over as leader, but you can kind of see that he really doesn't want to be the leader. He feels upset about that when Taylor tries to help go over and tell him issues about the town. Jesus just isn't interested in it, so we see that he's been kind of going out and training Aaron, because he's on a horse and he attacks him, and they do like a training session. And I didn't say this in the last episode because I forgot, but the three communities, the Kingdom, Alexandria, and the Hilltop, really haven't been getting along as of late. So Jesus and Aaron are trying to change that. They want to have the kingdom. They want to have Alexandria, and they want to have the Hilltop all kind of be working together again. So we don't know what happened that led to that. We don't know if it's the exit of Rick. We don't know. That's kind of why I'm pissed they did a 6-year time jump, because we kind of have to use our imagination about that. And I don't hate that, but that's a pretty crucial storyline that they skipped. So, yeah. But earlier in the episode, we had seen Rosita struggling, and we still hear that the walkers are whispering things like, don't let her get away, she's got to be close. But we see that she's just absolutely dehydrated, and she's on her deathbed. So, I think Jesus and Aaron hear a gunshot, which attracts them. And when they see Rosita, she reveals that Eugene is somewhere in a bone, because he's all banged up and stuff. So they agree to take Rosita back to the hilltop and come back for Eugene, because that makes sense, because obviously Rosita wouldn't survive much longer. We do get to see too at Hilltop that the community is still a little stable. Edith's the main doctor now, which had been kind of a permanent thing for a while anyways, but stuff like that. And then we see that Aaron too has got like a metal arm now from when his arm was crushed during episode 2 of this show. So of this season, I should say too. But that's everything that was kind of going on the Hilltop side of things. Then we have everything that was going on with Michonne and Magnus group. They're gonna go back because Luke has some instruments he wants to go back for, and when he's which was really a stupid thing, but he's like obsessed with instruments. So because he used to be a music teacher, and they Michonne still doesn't trust this group, but she is starting to like them. So and Sadiq and Michonne talk about that. I still hate Sadiq's character because, like I talked about before, he's the reason storyline wise why Carl died. So makes me hate him. He died. I still can't believe how Carl died like that. So and they don't find anything. So Michonne's kind of like, okay, you guys can go to the hilltop the rest of the way. I'm going to turn back. Because we don't really know, but we know that Michonne and Maggie had some type of falling out. Because if you do think about it too, I guess the main reason is had Maggie not agreed to go kill Negan, Rick would still be in the show, or alive, as they think. I think she blames Maggie in a way, because it was her, because Rick tried to stop Maggie from killing Negan, and it caused him his life, because he was trying to stand by his beliefs. So what happens is Magna agrees, and Michonne tells them to keep their weapons, and Magna's group's not happy about this. Connie says stuff, and they agree to kind of go about it their way, because Michonne says that if they give them their weapons, they're just gonna have to fend for themselves. So they agree to take luxury for the night, or take shelter. I should have said shelter because it's not much of a luxury. And what happens is we overhear Luke playing with something, and Michonne thinks he has a weapon, so she uses her sword to cut it, and just cuts the Stradivarius, which is a violin, in half. And Luke kind of talks about how the way that people kind of conquered the world before the zombie apocalypse and before civilization was even built was through music and through art. And that's why he thinks that people can kind of do that again. But Michonne doesn't believe that. So what happens is Sadiq tells Michonne that Maggie isn't at the hilltop anymore, and Michonne is really confused about that. She doesn't know why, because Michonne doesn't want to go to the Hilltop because of the falling out that the Hilltop had with Alexandria. So before Siddiq can answer the question, we hear a herd of walkers come over. They attack him, and Michonne agrees to give Magna's group their weapons so that way they can help fight off the walkers. And we see that some of Magna's group have slingshots, which I think is pretty cool, and knives and stuff, and like a bow and arrow. One of them, I think it's Yumiko, uses it in slingshot like a tent setup, and it falls over on the walkers. And we find out that this is the same group of walkers that attacked them originally when at the end of season episode 5, because one of them was Bernie, who had been missing from this group. They talked about that last episode, but I didn't think it was going to be important because I just didn't think it was going to be, so I didn't mention it. And we see that he's been reanimated, so Michonne puts him down, and she tries to reason with them, saying that she knows what she's going through and says that they have to move on. So Siddiq still wants Michonne to go to the Hilltop, knowing that Maggie's not there anymore and that Jesus is taking over, and he tells her where Maggie is. And Michonne still doesn't want to go, but then when a couple people from the Hilltop come up and tell them what happened, what was Rosita, this makes Michonne want to go. But then Kelly notices something over in the distance, and Michonne's asking what it is, but we see Connie sign language something, and she said, no, never mind, it's nothing. But typically when they do the sign language in this show, they do subtitles to kind of tell us what they're saying. But this time they didn't, so this means that what she probably said really wasn't what she said. So it does kind of leave me a little bit suspicious about Magna's group motives. So they walk off, and then what happens is Daryl, Kalo, and Henry arrive to Hilltop. Henry wants to get with Edith, and Jesus and Tara earlier in the episode had gotten into a fight how Tara's the one that wants to go look for Eugene because Tara's trying to convince Jesus that he needs to leave the Hilltop because there's problems that they have to fix, and tries to convince Jesus that it's not going to be a temporary thing. Maggie's going to be gone completely. So eventually Jesus decides to, and it leads to Tara staying and leading the group. So there's that. And then the episode ends with Daryl, Aaron, and Jesus all going to look for Eugene, and that was pretty much the end of the episode. And that was pretty much it, really nothing else of note. So yeah, overall this episode of Walking Dead was okay. It was a little bit disappointing because I thought they were gonna set up some nice stuff for season 8, but it didn't happen. I felt like this episode was very skippable. You kind of could skip this episode and really not miss anything. The only thing you would miss maybe is finding out what happens with Maggie, but you easily could look that up online yourself, because we know the real reason Maggie's not there now. So yeah, and it had already been reported that Lloyd Cohan wasn't coming back and stuff. So yeah, it was an okay episode. I'll give it a C+. It was pretty decent. I did like the Dale storyline they did, and I did like the storylines that were on it, but it just felt like filler. It really just kind of felt like a filler episode that really wasn't very significant. So that's just what I think about it. But yeah, that's pretty much that. Now I'm gonna watch Talking Dead and have my review, that portion of the review up. But before I do that, I do want to mention what the fans and stuff thought of this episode. The people on IMDb, which is the fan reviews, gave it a 7.1 out of 10. They kind of agreed largely with what I said. I feel like it feels like the fans in a way kind of don't get that every episode of Walking Dead though has to be like a masterpiece, because a lot of the reviews range from 1 to 10, from either 1s or 10s. There will be like a 7 and 6s and stuff, but they really don't give like a fair review of the show sometimes. So that's just what I think. Rotten Tomatoes, this got a 79%. It received an average rating of a 6.03 out of 10. Out of 19 reviews, 15 gave it fresh and 4 gave it rotten. and some of them kind of agree they liked the episode, but it was really just a filler episode. It kind of reminded them of like the old Walking Dead episodes where they would have episodes just for the sake of having them, so kind of stuff like that. But yeah, now I'm gonna watch Talking Dead and have my review up of that when I'm done watching it.